All right, let's take a look at CRXT. This made a monster move today. It's a bit of a continuation play from yesterday. Made a move in the after hours off some news. And it kind of faded in the pre-market. Didn't look like much was going to happen, but ended up making a huge move, kind of mid-late morning, almost breaking 4. It kind of it previously had a bit of a gap and fade on the daily with a little bit of an uptrend and then a downtrend. Not too much volume, not really any big days, um, but it did see huge volume today. I mean, 230 some million shares traded. If we look in the morning, we kind of hit this 228 level. We kind of looked at it this morning, and it looked as if that was pretty much going to be it. It was fading, pretty good, low volume. But then on the open, we saw a little bit of a move. Let's see if we can adjust this. Not too much. I mean, some okay volume, kind of a pop-up test of, the 210 area, which it's roughly kind of the high of the trend a few weeks ago. Kind of tested that, popped down, and then kind of traded sideways. Did finally break that, and then that's when you start to see a little bit more volume come in. You probably had some shorts on that 210 area, so it's going to kind of trigger some stop losses, as well as people just are going to get more aggressive with buying. And then it really was this 2.5 level when we saw a break out of that, that it just then absolutely exploded. So we went essentially from 2.5 to basically 390 on huge volume. If we look on the daily, not too many levels, nothing really much to decipher. I mean, we do have, looks like a little bit of a support, or in this case resistance now, right at just before that 4 level. That's perhaps what we kind of touched and then just didn't have enough to really hold on. It is a lower float, so you kind of see these more volatile candles. We had a test of almost at 4.9ish level, 4.95, 4.96. Kind of retraced that, but then still kind of came back up with some okay volume. But on the retest, just kind of flushed and broke down, and then consolidated with a bigger flush and fade out, and then it kind of just broke down and just traded down the rest of the day. Not really consolidating or holding much of any levels. We kind of had a little bit of an area where we were between that 210, that essentially that pre-market level, between that 210 and like 228 level. We had a little bit of a range within that, but ultimately broke down, and it's now kind of fading it and consolidating it too. This thing just made such a monster move. I mean, for it to make anything up on the upside, gonna be really tough. I mean, probably have a lot of shorts in on this. Although I'm not sure on how easy this is to borrow, but you're really going to need to hit a level of almost 4 to really get a bigger move. I mean, this was a pretty big squeeze, tons and tons of volume trade shares, or shares traded. Sorry, and then on the flip side, I mean, if it's kind of holding too, might have a little bit of a consolidation level at 1.8, 1.85, 1.7. Might find a home there for now, and then perhaps slowly fade. I mean, it was in closer to like 115, 120 a few days before, which made a big monster move. I mean, it's definitely gonna have eyes on it tomorrow, but it's gonna be tough without any catalyst to really get that volume to make such a big move. Let's take a look at ALVR. This had gapped up in the pre-market and made a pretty sizable move on the open. It hasn't really made any big moves in the daily. You know, really low volume, almost almost unseeable relative today. So high R vol today, and a bit of a downtrend over the past few months. We gap up a little bit, and then kind of consolidate almost between, I don't know, I'd say 640 or so. See if there's anything really on the daily that stands out for a level. Maybe 644, 645, somewhere around there. Kind of then traded in between that and that 680 range. I mean, they have a little bit of a marker on the daily in the historical, but nothing that stands out too much. We were pretty volatile here in the open. Kind of some large wicks, up and down. And it was really kind of a break. I mean, it did almost, in a sense, kind of wedge up, and then with a break of, I'd say 715 maybe. I would almost say 715 is when we got a really big explosive break, more volume coming in, but still lower float biotech, a lot of wicks, a lot of volatile candles. We do kind of see some good continuation for about the first 30 minutes or so of trading all the way up to 850. This is a pretty, I would say a decently established level from the daily, that 850 range. Went up, tested that. Volume was a bit decreasing on the second test up, so possibly a sign of weakness. And then it kind of just broke down from there. You see some of these big flush downs. We did kind of trade in that earlier established range, kind of that 680, 715 rather, but couldn't hold it, and then just really broke down. We kind of break this 680 level later in the day, and it just absolutely just gets crushed. Some decent volume, but volume on this retracement, but not as much as the open. I mean, it pretty much was the first hour and a half, if that, where it got the attention, and then just really faded hard. Throughout the day, we kind of are hitting kind of 620 right now, maybe consolidating a little bit. Kind of essentially broke that pre-market support, so it's going to be tough for this to make any other moves to the upside. This might just be a fade down to 575 or so. Have decent volume, but it's really faded off at the end of the day, and well below VWAP, so it's going to need a lot to really make a swing to the upside. I don't necessarily see that as of right now. Let's take a look at MULN. We looked at this stock this morning. It was almost converging to a point between 170 and this kind of like descending resistance based off the daily, and it kind of was seeming like it was going to converge at a point around 170. Just couldn't hold it. We touching the 160s in pre-market, got back up to the 17, but on the open just kind of got some I wouldn't say hard selling, but just a downtrend. I mean, it's kind of as a flip-flop of a stock in terms of trading. You see these short candles, just kind of not as volatile as a low float. We're looking at 284 million shares in this. It did break the 1.7 level. That's what you kind of see. This bigger move down, touches the low of 134, kind of is then consolidating around 140. It's it's got support roughly at 1.3, and that's perhaps what we kind of saw it bounce off of. I mean, if it breaks that, this thing could then break back down under $1. It's going to need to really hold this 130 range. Otherwise, it might fade even harder. It is in a pretty noticeable downtrend over the past few weeks. It's going to need a catalyst of anything really to kind of get back up. I mean, maybe if it has a break of 2, you might see a little bit of move then up there too, or rather up to, I don't know, that 2.4 range, 2.45, possibly 2.5, just because of possible shorts that are in there at the moment. But without a real company catalyst, this is probably going to just trade within this range, and then levels to look out for 1.72 for the upside, and then 1.3 on the downside.